How did mindfulness help me to manage my addiction? First of all, I would like to explain more how did regular writing to vent my unresolved feelings was a very important base to give me the chance to let and release all feelings that kept clouding on my mind during my childhood and teenage time, as I kept feeling that these problems and painful, abusive, physical and emotional experiences were basically the result of my wrongdoings. When I started my recovery journey, it was actually a chance to relearn abuse based on a scientific research and understanding of why abusive treatment mess up the mind of the victim and distort the reality and make them feel degraded, even though they were in a position that need support and help from their caregivers. I started writing, as I mentioned in another video, when I was very young, around 7 years old. It was scratches, it was just few words and maybe few sentences. Then gradually, when this became a regular thing of me doing almost every day, I was able just to vent and release unresolved feelings about these situations that were horrible in many ways. And dealing with good teachers was a very good thing that happened on my educational journey, because they encouraged me to write more, and this encouraged me to find more words to explain feelings like rage, anger, sorrow, shame. So after doing this for a while, when I reached adolescence years, my parents discovered that handling teenage years is much harder than handling screams and shouts of my childhood. So they actually found a way to be outside the house for a very long time. What they did actually is to join. My father joined a second job, and my mother took a job that starts at 5 o'clock in the evening and only ends at 12 o'clock. So by midnight, she would come back, and I would be at home alone. And this deep sense of frustration and loneliness has triggered me to think of something radical. I wanted to do something not just to end my loneliness, but something that felt that I can punish my parents with. By that time, I tried to watch pornography, and I noticed that what made this practice special in my addictive brain is how much control I had on the session. Something that is valuable to a person who lives his entire day receiving orders from others. Unfortunately, my classmates were exchanging tapes with me, and that kept that habit going on for a very long time. Now, at that time, I needed to wait until my parents leave the house in order for me to watch and stop before they come back. When I reached college, it became even worse because I left home and lived somewhere else where I had more time and control over watching. Now, this activity was actually keeping me in a very miserable state of mind, because part of my deepest values is respect of women, and none of these videos has shown any type of respect for women. So that was a question in my writings where I sometimes couldn't answer. How could I combine those two things together? And this question stayed with me as I kept watching and using watching as an excuse to release my sense of stress. I claimed wrongly at that time that it was a way to vent my stress, and it stayed with me after university until I reached the age of 42. At that time, I was introduced to a beautiful concept that was so helpful in my recovery journey to stop this addiction forever. That concept started with a very simple exercise. All what I needed to do in the beginning is to stare to a wall while waiting in any place. And this wall needs to be plain. No pictures, no writings, just stare to the wall. This staring was very annoying because I used to think of all type of ideas when I am waiting for something. The first year of staring was a very hard job. However, this sense of discomfort started to be replaced with sense of tranquility, a sensation that was able to visit my mind as I noticed that all ideas that comes to my mind has some temptation, and especially those ideas that I keep doing has the most temptation and can be easily triggered by many things. This simple exercise of staring at a plain wall has helped me to quantify these ideas until I noticed that this bad, destructive habit of watching porn started at the time of a deep sense of loneliness that was created as a result of neglect of my caregivers when I was still at adolescence years. And this sense of loneliness was unbearable, and gradually I started to convince my addictive brain that this is okay. Everybody at my age are doing or watching these videos, which was not the case. All these justifications, I looked at them in a new light after practicing staring at the plain wall, because I noticed how naive anyone could consider this a justification of loneliness. Loneliness started to become less discomfortable, less annoying. I started to be more interested into simple tasks and to schedule my day in a way that will help me to communicate enough with people that I care about and do the things that I like the most, especially my work. When I started mindfulness, I have already established a freelancing job that gave me the chance to spend most of my working hours doing the things that I am interested in. The pay was irregular. Finding clients was not easy. However, whenever I get a project, I get immersed in that project. I have a flow state of mind while doing it. So my focus has increased using this simple exercise. 4 years later, as I tried to find any reason that would make me keep watching porn, and I couldn't find anything. And so I was able to stop watching after only 4 years of practicing a simple exercise driven from the concept of mindfulness.